Vex had seen a lot of stupid things in his 17 years as a fighter. But this was, hands down, the most ridiculous thing he had ever witnessed in his entire life. The human was dancing. Actually dancing. Not the ritualistic pre-combat stance of the Kalthine warriors. Not the aggressive posturing of the Threskan brutes. Not even the meditative stillness of the Vorath monks. No, no, no. This tiny, fragile-looking creature was bouncing on her feet, rolling her shoulders and twisting her hips like she was preparing for a mating display rather than a fight to unconsciousness. "Is she serious?" Torque asked, his 3 eyes blinking in confused succession. "Does she think this is a performance arena?" Vex could not help it. He laughed. A deep, rumbling laugh that echoed across the preparation area of the fractured ring, that beautiful, chaotic space station where credits flowed as freely as blood in the fighting pits. Several other fighters turned to look, and when they saw what Vex was staring at, they started laughing too. The human, this Lena creature, did not even glance their way. She just kept doing her weird little movements, stretching in ways that looked painful, bending her joints at angles that seemed biologically wrong. "Look at her," Gath snorted, his tusks gleaming under the harsh lighting. "She's going to break herself before you even touch her, Vex." "I have fought Grenthian death machines," Vex said, still chuckling as he crossed his forearms over his chest. "I have gone toe-to-toe with Vorath berserkers high on battle spice. I once threw a Kulveen champion so hard he left a dent in the arena wall." He paused for effect, his mandibles clicking in amusement. "And they want me to fight that?" Breck, the smallest of his crew, but still twice the size of the human, was already pulling up his datapad. "The odds are, wow, they are actually insulting. 20-1 against the human." 20-1, Vex repeated. "That is it? I would have expected 50-1, 100-1 even." "Apparently she has won 3 fights already," Breck said, scrolling through the information. "But look at who she fought. A Drellin, a Fisk, and some traitor who probably had not thrown a punch in his life." He looked up, his expression dripping with skepticism. "Nothing impressive." Vex watched as the human dropped into a crouch, then exploded upward, her legs propelling her into a spinning motion that ended with her foot extended at head height. She held the position for 3 full seconds, perfectly balanced, before flowing back down into another stance. "She is showing off," Torque said flatly. "She is going to get hurt," Vex corrected. "Flexibility means nothing when you lack power. Acrobatics do not win fights. Strength wins fights. Mass wins fights. Experience wins fights." He flexed his primary arms, feeling the satisfying burn of muscle and chitin. "And I have all 3. The announcer, a wiry alien named Hulo, with a voice that could shatter glass, began warming up the crowd in the main arena. Vex could hear the roar of hundreds of spectators, all of them here for blood, for violence, for the primal thrill of watching 2 beings try to render each other unconscious. And they were about to see him flatten a human in record time. "Place your bets, boys," Vex said, his confidence so thick you could cut it with a blade. "Tonight, we drink on the winnings." They moved toward the betting stations, where Fyra, the pit boss, sat behind a reinforced barrier. She was a Quellan, all scales and cold calculation, and she had been running fights on the fractured ring for 30 years. "Vex," she greeted him with a nod, "you are fighting the human." "For about 15 seconds, he replied. "Then I am collecting my credits." Fyra's expression did not change. "The human has surprised some people." The human got lucky, Vex countered. Lucky ends when you face real competition. He put down 5,000 credits. On himself, obviously. Torque, Gath, and Breck followed suit, their own bets ranging from 3,000 to 4,000 each. Easy money. The easiest money they had made in months. As they walked toward the fighter entrance, Vex allowed himself a moment of reflection. He had been fighting for money since he was barely old enough to form a fist. Started in the youth circuits on his home world, worked his way up through the regional tournaments, and eventually made it to the big stations like the Fractured Ring. He had 243 fights under his belt, 237 wins, 6 losses, all of them to opponents who had at least 60 pounds on him and years more experience. This human? She probably weighed, 130 pounds? Maybe 140 if she was carrying extra gear. She looked like she would snap if he grabbed her wrong. The thought made him laugh again. The corridor leading to the arena thrummed with bass-heavy music and the stomping of feet. The crowd was getting restless, hungry for the next match. Vex cracked his neck, feeling vertebrae pop satisfyingly into place. He rolled his shoulders, tested his reach. Everything felt good. Everything felt perfect. He stepped into the harsh light of the arena, and the crowd erupted. They knew him here. They knew what he was capable of. He raised all 4 arms, acknowledging their cheers, feeding off their energy. Then the human entered from the opposite side. The cheers turned to laughter, actual laughter. Hundreds of aliens, dozens of species, all united in their amusement at this tiny human female who thought she belonged in the ring with a Colthene warrior. Lena, her name displayed on the massive screens overhead, walked to her corner with calm, measured steps. She wore minimal padding, just wraps on her hands and feet. Her dark hair was pulled back tight. Her expression was neutral, almost bored. She looked at Vex once, just once. And there was no fear in those strange, forward-facing eyes, no hesitation, no doubt. Just calm. It should have bothered him. That calm should have set off warning bells in his head. But Vex was too busy basking in his own certainty, too wrapped up in his inevitable victory. Hulo's voice boomed across the arena. Ladies, gentlemen, and beings of all classifications, tonight we have a match that promises brutality. In the red corner, standing 7 feet tall and weighing 320 pounds, with 243 fights and 237 victories, the Colthene Hammer, Vex. The crowd roared. And in the blue corner, standing 5 feet 6 inches, weighing 135 pounds, with 3 fights and 3 victories, the human, Lena. The laughter intensified. Vex bounced on his feet, his forearms loose and ready. Across the ring, Lena simply stood there, breathing slowly, her eyes locked on him with unnerving focus. Hulo raised his hand. Fighters ready? Vex nodded, grinning. Lena nodded once. Then let us begin. The bell rang, and Vex charged forward, ready to end this joke of a fight in seconds. He really should have paid more attention to that calm in her eyes. He really should have. Vex exploded across the arena floor like a missile. 320 pounds of muscle, chitin, and absolute certainty. His strategy was simple, elegant, and had worked 237 times before. Close the distance. Overwhelm with superior mass. Pin or strike until the opponent could not continue. Easy, efficient, effective. Except Lena was not there anymore. She had moved, barely moved actually. Just a small shift to the left, a slight rotation of her hips, and suddenly Vex's crushing charge met nothing but empty air. His momentum carried him forward 3 steps before he could stop himself. The crowd noise changed, not quite concerned yet. still amused. But there was a hint of something else now. Curiosity, maybe? Vex spun around, recalibrating. Fine. She was fast. He had fought fast opponents before. Speed without power was just wasted energy. He came in again, this time more controlled. A straight punch with his primary right arm designed to test her defense. She would block or dodge, and then he would follow up with his other 3 arms in rapid succession. Standard combination. Textbook execution. His fist should have connected with her guard, her shoulder, something. Instead, she turned her body at an angle he had not anticipated, and his punch sailed past her by inches. Before he could pull back, she stepped inside his reach, her body impossibly close, and drove her elbow into his ribs. The impact was, well, it was not painful exactly. It was more surprising than anything else, like being poked by a small stick. Vex actually wanted to laugh again. Was that her best shot? Then the sensation hit him, a deep, radiating ache that spread from the point of impact, and he realized with uncomfortable awareness that she had struck directly on a nerve cluster. His left side went briefly numb. What the actual hell? "First point to Lena," Hulo announced, and part of the crowd cheered. The human supporters, all 12 of them probably. Vex shook off the sensation, frustrated now. Lucky hit, that was all. He came in again, throwing a combination. Left, right, left. Overhead smash with his secondary arms. A flurry of attacks that should have overwhelmed her, should have forced her into a mistake. She moved like water, like smoke, like she knew where his attacks were going before he threw them. A duck, a weave, a step back that put her just outside his range. And every time he extended too far, she was there with another precise strike. His shoulder, his knee, his neck. None of them hurt, not really. But they were adding up, creating a cumulative effect that he was starting to genuinely dislike. "Stop dancing and fight," Torque yelled from the sidelines, his voice cutting through the ambient noise. Vex wanted to yell back that he was trying, but that would look weak. So instead, he adjusted his approach. Forget the fancy combinations. Just grab her. Use his size advantage. Once he got his hands on her, this fight was over. He feinted high, then shot low, reaching for her legs. Standard takedown. Works on 90% of opponents. Lena jumped, not away, up. She planted one foot on his extended arm and used it as a springboard, vaulting over him entirely. As she passed overhead, she kicked down, catching him on the back of his head. Not hard enough to injure, but hard enough to make his vision blur for a split second. The crowd was definitely louder now, more engaged. The laughter had stopped. Now they were watching with actual interest. Vex straightened, his mandibles clicking in irritation. This was not going according to plan. This was not going according to any plan. He had studied human physiology. They were weak, fragile. Their bones broke easily. Their endurance was limited. Everything about them screamed prey species. So why could he not hit her? He tried again. Faster this time. More aggressive. He unleashed everything he had, every technique, every combination, every dirty trick he had learned in 243 fights. He went high and low. He used all 4 arms simultaneously. He tried to corner her, trap her, limit her options. But humans, he was learning in real time, did not move like other species. They did not have the rigid fighting patterns of the Vorath. They did not rely on brute strength like the Threskin. They were unpredictable, adaptive, constantly shifting between styles and strategies. Lena blocked when blocking made sense. She dodged when dodging was better. She redirected his force when she could. She absorbed hits when she had to. And through it all, she kept landing those irritating, precise, targeted strikes. His ribs, his joints, his pressure points. Places he had not even known were vulnerable until her fists or feet found them. Vex's breathing was getting heavier. How was his breathing getting heavier? He had stamina for days. He had fought 20-minute matches without breaking a sweat. But this human, this tiny, impossible human, was making him work harder than he had worked in years. "Vex Pattern 3, Gath shouted from the sidelines. Pattern 3, the Calthine war form. Aggressive, overwhelming, designed to break through any defense. Vex nodded, reset his stance, and launched into the pattern. It was beautiful, really. A symphony of violence. His arms moving in coordinated strikes, his legs driving forward with unstoppable momentum, his entire body committed to complete destruction. Lena watched him come. And for the first time since the fight started, she smiled. That smile should have warned him. That smile was a giant, flashing sign that said, "Danger. Proceed with extreme caution. Turn back now." He did not turn back. She dropped low, impossibly low, and swept his lead leg. Not with power, with timing, with precision, with an understanding of leverage and balance that turned his own momentum against him. His leg went out from under him. His body, still committed to the forward attack, had nowhere to go but down. He hit the mat. Not hard, not painfully, but he hit it. Vex, the Calthine hammer, 237 victories, hit the mat. For exactly 1 second, the arena was completely silent. Then the crowd erupted, not in mockery, in genuine shock. Half of them were cheering. The other half were staring in disbelief, probably calculating how much money they had just lost. Vex scrambled to his feet, his face burning with humiliation and anger. That was a fluke, a mistake, a momentary lapse in concentration. But when he looked at Lena, still smiling, still calm, still completely in control, a tiny voice in the back of his head whispered something he did not want to hear. What if it was not a fluke? What if she was better than him? He charged again, but this time the confidence was gone. This time he was fighting something far more dangerous than a human. He was fighting his own doubt. And Lena, standing in her corner, rolling her shoulders like this was just a warm-up, looked ready to teach him exactly why underestimating humans was the last mistake any alien should make. Desperation made Vex sloppy. Desperation made him forget everything he had learned in 17 years of fighting. Desperation turned a decorated warrior into a flailing amateur. He threw everything at her. Wild haymakers, reckless tackles, combinations with no setup, no strategy, no thought. Just panic dressed up as aggression. Lena weathered the storm. Every attack he threw, she had an answer for. She slipped a punch and countered with a knee to his thigh. She redirected a grab and struck his throat. Not hard enough to crush it, but hard enough to make breathing uncomfortable. She was a surgeon with fists, cutting him apart piece by piece. Time to get serious, Vex growled. And he meant it. No more testing, no more playing. He accessed the Calthine battle trance, that state of heightened awareness that turned good fighters into great ones. Everything slowed down. His senses sharpened. He could see her micro-movements now, predict her patterns, anticipate her counters. He threw a jab. She moved left. He was already there with his secondary arm. Gotcha. Except she was not there either. She had doubled back, ducking under his follow-up, and now she was inside his guard again. Too close. Dangerously close. Her hands moved in a blur. palm strike to his solar plexus, elbow to his jaw, knee to his midsection. Each hit perfectly placed, perfectly timed, perfectly devastating. Vex's vision blurred. His legs felt wrong, weak, unsteady. No, 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 no. This could not be happening. He swung again, putting everything into one massive overhead strike with all four arms. If it connected, the fight was over. If it connected, he won. It did not connect. Lena moved, not dramatically. Just a small step to the side. Then she did something that Vex's brain could not process in the moment. She grabbed his primary right arm, turned her hip into his body, and pulled. Physics took over. Leverage, momentum. The principles that governed the universe and did not care about species, size, or ego. Vex's 320 pounds became a liability. His own force, his own strength, his own aggression, all of it got redirected through this tiny human's perfectly positioned fulcrum. He went up. Actually went up. Lifted off his feet by his own momentum. Then he went down. Hard. The impact drove the air from his lungs. The arena floor, reinforced and unforgiving, met his back with brutal finality. His head bounced once, twice. His vision filled with stars, real or imagined, he could not tell. Somewhere far away, Hulo was counting. 1, 2, 3. Get up, you fool, get up. 4, 5, 6. His body refused. Every muscle screamed, every joint ached. The accumulated damage from dozens of precise strikes had finally caught up with him. 7, 8. He tried to roll over, managed to get to his hands and knees. The world spun sickeningly. 9, 10, knockout. The bell rang. The crowd exploded into chaos, half cheering, half screaming in outrage. Money was changing hands. Bets were being settled. Fortunes were being made and lost. And Vex, the Kalthine Hammer, 237 victories, knelt on the mat, staring at nothing, his mind unable to process what had just happened. A shadow fell over him. He looked up. Lena stood there, not even breathing hard, her hand extended, offering to help him up. The humiliation was complete. The medical bay of the fractured ring smelled like antiseptic and defeat. Vex sat on an examination table, while Kiva, a Quellan medic with zero sympathy and even less patience, ran her scanner over his bruised body. 3 cracked ribs, she announced without emotion. Severe bruising along your left side, right shoulder, and both legs. Minor concussion, strained muscles in your neck and back, inflammation in 14 separate pressure points. She looked up from her scanner, her reptilian eyes cold. You got worked over. I am aware, Vex muttered. By a human, Kiva continued, and there might have been the faintest hint of amusement in her voice. A human who weighs less than half what you do. I am very aware. Torque, Gath, and Breck sat in the corner, unusually quiet. They had lost money, significant money. But more than that, they had lost their certainty, their faith in the natural order of things. Big beats small, strong beats weak, experience beats novice, except when it did not. How? Vex finally asked, breaking the silence. How did she do that? She fought better than you, Kiva said bluntly, applying a dermal regenerator to his ribs. Next question. That is not an answer. It is the only answer that matters. Kiva finished her work and stepped back. You will be sore for 3 days. Try not to get thrown on your back again during that time. She left, and Vex was alone with his crew and his thoughts. The thoughts were worse than the injuries. The betting network is going insane, Breck said, staring at his datapad. The human's odds have completely flipped. She is getting fight offers from every major arena in this sector. Good for her, Vex said. and was surprised to find he actually meant it. "You are taking this well," Gath observed. "What choice do I have?" Vex shifted on the table, wincing at the movement. "Denying what happened will not change the result. I lost, badly, and I need to understand why." The door to the medical bay opened again. Vex looked up, expecting Kiva with more bad news about his injuries. It was Lena. She had showered and changed, wearing simple civilian clothes now. She looked even smaller without the fighting wraps, even less threatening. But Vex's body, still aching from a dozen precise strikes, knew better. "Can we talk?" she asked. Vex nodded. Torque, Gath, and Breck quietly excused themselves, though not before giving the human respectful nods. That alone showed how much had changed in the last hour. Lena pulled up a chair and sat down. For a long moment, neither of them spoke. "You were wondering how I did it," she finally said. "That would be the question burning in my brain, yes." She smiled, not unkindly. "Your technique was solid. Your strength is impressive. Your experience showed in every movement. But you fought like someone who had never faced an opponent who thought differently than you." She leaned back in the chair. "Tell me, Vex, how many fighting styles exist in Kalthine culture?" He considered the question. 3 main forms: the war form, the duel form, and the ceremonial form, plus variations and personal adaptations. 3, Lena repeated. "Humans have been fighting each other for thousands of years. We have hundreds of documented martial arts, boxing, wrestling, various forms of striking arts, grappling systems, weapon-based disciplines. And we have been mixing them, adapting them, evolving them constantly. I do not understand how that matters. It matters because when you trained against opponents who thought like you, who moved like you, who used the same basic principles you did." She gestured at him. "I grew up studying 6 different fighting systems. I have sparred with dozens of training partners, each with their own style. I have learned to adapt to unpredictability because humans are fundamentally unpredictable." Vex absorbed this. "So, it is just experience? Training?" "No," Lena said. "It is more than that. Humans evolved as prey animals. We were not the strongest. We were not the fastest. We did not have natural weapons like claws or fangs. We survived by being smarter, more adaptable, more creative." She stood and demonstrated a simple movement, a shift of weight and angle. Every martial art we created reflects that. We learned to use leverage instead of strength, timing instead of speed, precision instead of power. We learned that a small person could defeat a large person if they understood the mechanics of how bodies move. "You used my own force against me," Vex said, understanding dawning. "Exactly. That throw at the end? That was not my strength lifting you. That was your momentum, redirected. I just provided the pivot point." She sat back down. "Humans had to learn these lessons because we had no choice. The strong prey on the weak unless the weak get smart." Vex thought about his home world. The Kalthine had always been apex predators. 4 arms meant they could grapple and strike simultaneously. Their size and strength meant they could overwhelm most threats. They never needed to develop the kind of intricate, technical fighting systems Lena was describing, because they never needed to overcome a significant physical disadvantage. "I underestimated you," he said quietly. "Yes. I assumed physical superiority meant combat superiority. Yes, I was an arrogant fool." Lena tilted her head, considering. "You were overconfident, but you are not a fool. A fool would not be sitting here trying to understand what went wrong. A fool would make excuses. Then what do I do now? Learn, she said simply. Study, adapt. There is no shame in losing Vex, only in refusing to grow from it. Over the next several days, word of the fight spread through the fractured ring like wildfire. The human who beat the Colthene hammer, the impossible upset, the 5'6" warrior who proved that size was not everything. Other human fighters started getting more respect, better odds, serious consideration from promoters who had previously dismissed them. Vex watched it happen from the sidelines while he recovered. He studied recordings of human martial arts. He analyzed Lena's movements frame by frame. He began to understand the depth of knowledge humanity had accumulated about the art of fighting. 2 weeks later, he saw another human in the arena, a male named Dane, fighting a Threscan brute twice his size. The crowd was split now. Half expected the human to win, half still bet on the bigger fighter. Vex watched as Dane moved, fluid and adaptable, using techniques that seemed to shift and flow like water. The Threscan could not pin him down, could not predict him, could not land clean hits. The fight ended with Dane victorious. Vex nodded slowly, finally understanding. This was not a fluke. This was not luck. This was humanity showing the galaxy what happened when a species spent thousands of years perfecting the art of overcoming physical disadvantages. He found Lena in the training area later that day. "Teach me," he said. She looked at him, evaluating. Then she smiled. "All right, but fair warning, it is going to hurt." "It already hurts," Vex said, remembering the mat rushing up to meet him, remembering the humiliation, remembering the lesson. "Might as well make it worthwhile." Lena laughed. Lesson 1. Never assume you know everything about fighting just because you have won a lot of fights. "Learned that one already," Vex said dryly. "Good. Then you are ahead of most beings in this station." She moved into a basic stance. Lesson 2. Every size difference is an opportunity, not a limitation. You just have to understand the physics. And as Vex began to learn, began to truly learn, he realized something profound. He had not lost to Lena that day in the arena. He had lost to himself, to his assumptions, to his arrogance. She had just been kind enough to show him the floor. And now, he was finally ready to get back up.